Hello, and welcome back to Project Rejectus. Today, very excited to show you just how much the Trumetaceos has advanced and grown since our last episode. To start off, let's go back to the Wanderers we introduced last episode. As I explained, to help get more resources, they started to raid other Trumetaceos, taking whatever they pleased. They did these raids usually to the Grexland Trumetaceos. Now, despite how much more advanced the Grexland kingdoms were, that doesn't really matter against the Nisris, which can simply just trample any defense they could make. Due to this, they were forced to advance in order to even stand a chance against these titans. This led to the end of the Stone Age for this world, as a new resource would be discovered to help fight off the ever-growing empire of the Wanderers: copper. With this new resource, the Trumetaceos could now make a suit of armor to help defend themselves against the Wanderers. These copper suits were made up of harder pieces, protecting more vital parts of the Trumetaceos, with chainmail under this to allow the user to keep some mobility while in the armor. They even added their glass to it, putting thin pieces of sap over the eye holes in order to protect them. These early warriors held large battle axes to fight off the Wanderers. This worked quite well, as the Grexland Trumetaceos made strides in the early years of the ever-going war with the Wanderers. They finally started to take some of their land back. Now, despite the success of this, the Wanderers obviously would fight back, making their own ways to win the war. And in this case, it was by weakening their enemies slowly. They did this by infecting them with a deadly plague. They brought infected corpses to battle to weaken the Grexlanders. It was becoming a common sight to see Wanderers flinging the corpses over the Grexlanders' walls. And as gross as this strategy was, it worked perfectly. The Grexlands were now stuck with the Death Eyes Plague, a highly infectious disease that gives the host large purple sores across their bodies. This disease spread like wildfire due to Trumetaceos' immune system never getting this before. Many of them died, especially soldiers who started to die off rapidly. The Wanderers were known to steal from the dead and even make new weapons from the copper scraps they got. All seemed uphill for the Wanderers until both them and their enemies made multiple grave mistakes. The Wanderers, feeling cocky enough to say the war was over, restarted their raids, attacking their distant cousins, the mountain beasts. What they didn't realize, however, was that the mountain tribes had been waiting in anticipation. Knowing the raids would return, they rode against the Wanderers on an army of Lista. Now, you might say it has to be over for the Wanderers, right? They lost this. A two-front war with no allies. What could possibly save them? Well, their enemies, of course, not being able to tell the difference between the Wanderers and mountain beasts. Many mountain beasts got attacked for no reason, making this once again an all-out war between the species. Due to this now constant state of war and hopelessness, many turned to religion. Due to this popularity, the new Church of Korka was founded. These priests would travel around in thick wool clothes to prevent infection as they cared for the seas, giving them proper burials. They wore the sign of Korka on their sides to show their faith. But despite their kind acts, they were looked down upon by most Trumetaceos. This was for two reasons. One, because they were mostly hybrid Trumetaceos, which is why they had uneven tusks as the genes from both species appeared. The other was because of a smaller cult that stemmed from the Korka church. While they still did the proper burials, these priests acted like grave robbers, taking the valuables from their corpses to sell them off for money. This wasn't the end, however, as they were known to also eat the corpses after, in order to fix their food shortages during the war. All these factors caused hybrid Trumetaceos to gain a bad reputation in society. Despite all these negative views on them, the priests persisted, acting as early doctors. They gave medicine to any Trumetaceos who would take it. They truly believed in Korka's light, as they believed their surprising immunity to the plague was because of their faithfulness to their merciful God. And it's a good thing they have this hope, because things are about to get a lot worse. Similar to the Wanderers and Grexlanders, the mountain beasts attacked the wrong group since they couldn't tell the difference. That's right, the Woodfacers, and due to their alliance, this also brought in the island's dwarfs to the fight. Marking the official date, every Trumitatio species and civilization went to war. With these new contenders in the war, the plague expanded even farther, reaching the forests and islands, and started to devastate the area just like the Grexlands. As the Death Eye plague spread with no stopping in sight, many believed this plague to be some kind of punishment for their sins or a literal demon walking among them. All these beliefs created Ziranius, the Trumitatio's god of death, disease, and war, a 3-for-1 deal on deadly sins. This god is said to be made up of angry souls who desire to love once more. They take the lives of others by spreading the Death Eye plague. With it being said, once the sores gain the white center, Ziranius can now see through it. Once the host is dead, this god is said to steal your tusks, keeping them for themselves. The many heads they have are their attempts at reincarnation. These always fail, however, and just end with the head falling off and becoming a new version of the god, continuing its mission to live again. This god is said to influence kings and queens across the lands, making them start and continue meaningless wars to cause more death for the Ziranius benefit. Despite all these challenges, this only gave the Woodfacers a reason to innovate. With their recently gained copper, they made hammers and chisels. Their feeling stone to success, they made wonders such as the wheel, stronger arrows, and a warhammer to help them in their battles. They started to quickly catch up to their enemies as they soon made their strongest weapon yet. A true marvel of their time, the catapult was a true weapon of destruction that ravaged the Woodfacers' enemies. From the cultist butcher axes to the Lista hordes, the Woodfacers truly had a leg up in this war. This way wasn't for everyone, however, as many Trumitatio's groups desired peace and stability away from all this destruction. They set off in the island dwarfs' boats, beginning an event known as the Great Journey to the North. We will come back to this in a later episode. While it took forever, finally, this war could be ended, as the mountain beasts found another new resource, iron. With it, they could make better, stronger weapons even faster than they ever could with copper. This, single-handed, caused the collapse of the Bronze Age, as iron was without a doubt superior to copper in every way. Now, you're probably expecting the new Iron Age Trumitatio's armor set, but I don't have that for you, as the mountain beast instead made armor for their greatest asset, which is of course their list. As these vast hordes of armored beasts overwhelmed the other civilizations, causing the war to finally be over. While discussions on territory and repercussions were discussed, one mutual agreement was reached, and that was isolation. All the groups and species agreed to leave each other alone and would only concern themselves with their own matters to prevent such a large war from happening again. Phew, 8 minutes of going over the Bronze Age. You know, I didn't really clear up how exactly the wars worked in this. Let me check how long this truly lasted for. Oh, that's a lot bigger than I thought. Wow, 1,247 years of pure war, which is basically the entire Bronze Age for this world. This was definitely one of the worst time periods to live in. Damn. Anyways, thank you all for watching as always, especially to Tucano Tuga for making so much fan art this episode. I would like to say real quick that the next video I post will not be for Rejectus. Instead, it will be an intro episode for my seed world once the election is over. So until then, goodbye for now. I'll see you all later.